Good morning, everyone. I just thought I would come to you and share my Brunswick Stew recipe with you. It's pretty easy, but I've had a few people to ask me how I do the Brunswick Stew, so I thought I would kind of share it with you this morning for those of you that are interested. First, what I start with is a small pack of Brunswick Stew and a small pack of chicken tenders. And what I do is put a little water, salt, and pepper in the pot. If I am cooking for all night in the crock pot, then I only let it cook for probably about 30 minutes. But today, because I want to do a quick version and let it cook for about 4 hours, I went ahead and boiled the Brunswick stew and the chicken for about hour and a half. But this is what it's going to look like when it's ready, when you have boiled it for that long. This here is what the chicken is already shredded and the beef is already tender. So now what I did, I transferred everything, including the juices, from the pot that I was cooking in to the crock pot. So that is what you see here. So now we're ready to get started. The next thing that I will show you are the ingredients that I use, because I like a little kick in my food. I have the rotel, the mal, but you can also get the hot. I also use crushed tomatoes, and you can use any brand that you like. And then I love whole peeled tomatoes in my soup, in my stews, because it's just gonna cook down. Use any vegetables you want. I just personally prefer to use the baby lima beans and the sweet corn. And then you just need salt, pepper, and I like a little sugar in mine. Also cut up a couple potatoes and onions. That is all that you need to get started. So that's what I'm going to do. Hi y'all, good morning. So now I'm just gonna go and pour in my rotel. Pour in the crushed red peppers. I would say probably pour half of this in, because you're gonna have so many tomatoes. So I'm gonna pour just half of this. This is what's going to kind of make the stew. It's all gonna cook together. And then for right now, I'm only gonna use about half of the peeled. So I'm gonna pour that in. I don't want this to overflow, so I'll go back and add some of the other ingredients. Once you get all the tomatoes in, then go ahead and stir it, because you're gonna need room for the vegetables that you will need to add in. So now all I'm doing is just stirring what I have. And this is what it looks like once you add the tomatoes. So now let's go in and add the potatoes, and I think I cut up probably about 3 or 4 of the medium sized potatoes, and I like the yellow, but you can use any brand that you want. And I have 1 whole onion that I'm using, okay? So go ahead and add that in. Hi Shay. Hi Anissa. So now we're ready to stir this in. This is easy. A lot of times when I'm cooking it overnight, I will only cook my meat for about 30 minutes and then throw all of these ingredients into the crock pot and let it whip, let it cook all night. All right, so now that I have that stirred, I'm going to probably use half a bag of my baby lima beans. So go ahead and pour in. Actually, because this bag is small, I could almost use the whole bag, but I'm not. So I'll go ahead and stir that in. I'm gonna stir that in and pour some white corn. You can use yellow or white. I prefer the white because it's a lot sweeter. So as you can see, I probably used about half a bag of that. And I'm just going to stir that. And then the only other thing that I will need to add, because it is so thick, I'm going to add some of my beef stock. And you can either use beef or chicken. But I'll add a little of that because as you can see, it's kind of thick. That's everything that's in here. It's a little too thick for me. So now what I want to do is to add in some of the broth. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is add in a little, probably about 1/4 cup of this. And I don't measure anything. Cooks don't measure, we just go ahead and cook. So I'm gonna add in probably about 1/4 cup of this broth. All right, so that's in. So now all that's left to do is to add your little salt and add you a little pepper. Stir it up again. And this is going to cook down, and as you can see, I now have a full pot here. This is the size. I can add some more tomatoes in, which I'll probably end up doing. But this is it. Just put the top on. Hi, Miss Bertrand. Hi, Rodney. Hi, Melissa. I'm gonna put the top on and let it cook for about 4 hours. And that is it. I don't need to do anything else. You can either do this in a crock pot, or if you want a quicker method, then you can cook for probably 1.5 to 2 hours on the stove. However, I would suggest that if you decide to do Brunswick stew on the stove, that you spray your pan with Pam, because a lot of these starchy vegetables will stick. Now, when this is just about done, in order to get it thick, I usually put in about 1/4 cup of Progresso breadcrumbs. You can use the breadcrumbs, or you may use, some people use mashed potatoes. I don't want mashed potatoes in mine because I've already added regular potatoes. So I usually add in a few, maybe 1/4 cup, but just add enough in to, it's the thickness that you like. So that is all that you would need to do. And as I said, just let it cook for 4 hours. If you're letting it cook all night, then that's gonna be probably set on 8 hours. And that's it. That is your Brunswick stew. I would love to hear from some of you that have not cooked it before. Give it a try. I personally prefer Brunswick stew over soup. So if you have any questions, then just hit me up. Y'all have a wonderful day and stay warm. Thanks.